On today's episode of Green Talks, we'll be talking to Dave Feeney. He is a current Rockstar Husqvarna mechanic for Austin Walton. Let's hear from him. Your first motorcycle, and how old were you?
I believe that I got my first motorcycle when I was about 10 years old, and it was a Kawasaki 75.
I was like 75.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you start riding in tracks right away, or do you start like in the desert?
Actually, I grew up in Australia,
Right.
so um, I could ride in the bush right behind my
Right.
house.
That's
So
nice.
it was awesome.
Yeah. And that was my next question. Where did you end up growing up?
Uh, just uh, just outside of Newcastle in
Mhm.
Australia. It's about 2 hours north of Sydney.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Did you like it out there? Would you ever go back to that place, or would you just want to stay here in California?
Um, I go back every once in a while, usually once or twice a year, because my family still lives there. So, um, and my mom still lives in the house that I grew up in.
That's good. And then I asked Zach to ask me one thing, what he wanted to hear from you, and he said his favorite race with me other than Vegas 17. What was your favorite race other than Vegas
Oh
with
wow.
Zach? Yeah.
Um, Probably um, Redbud. He led every lap of every moto,
Yeah.
so it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. What was your first team that you were a mechanic for, and what was the backstory of becoming a mechanic?
The first team that I was involved with was Pro Circuit
Oh,
uh,
circuit.
back in 1996. So
Wow.
I moved to California in 1993, and I worked for a couple of privateers, and I was friends with a lot of the guys that were on the Pro Circuit team, and I became friends with Mitch Payton and
Okay.
Bones and a lot of the other guys that work there. So Mitch asked me to come work for him. So that was pretty cool.
And who was your first actual pro racer guy on Kawasaki or a mechanic for?
When I first started at here, I worked for a local pro named Tony Amaridio.
Okay.
And then when I went to Pro Circuit, I worked for uh, a guy named Chad Patterson. He's from Iowa, I believe. And so, and then I worked for him for 1 year, and then I started working for Casey Johnson, who I worked with for 5 years. So
Wow.
that was a pretty cool deal.
And did you also work with Brock Tickle for some time?
Yes, I
Yeah,
worked for Brock for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
If Kawasaki ever wanted you back, would you go back or would you just stay with Husqvarna right now?
I am probably going to just stay with Husqvarna because I'm getting towards the end of my career and I
I
don't need
see.
to move around anymore.
Right. And then, um, what motivates you on your bad days at work?
I don't really have too many bad days, but I really enjoy going to work. So,
That's good.
um, yeah, I usually have a plan every day before I go into work. I usually make a plan the day before to what I'm going to do the next day. So it it makes it quite easy to go in and get started and get moving.
Okay. And then, when you first started with Suzuki, what year was that? And like, who was your first rider with Suzuki?
That was 2003, and the first rider that I had there was Stefan Roncada.
Stefan Ricardo. Okay. Um, if you could go back in time, would you choose the same career path?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah. I've had a great time doing what I've done, and I probably wouldn't change hardly anything. Maybe one or two things, but for the most part, yeah, it's been really good.
When you were a kid, did you always like used to work on your bikes and stuff? Or
Um, I had to learn. My dad was a carpenter and didn't really know anything about motorcycles, so we kind of had to figure it out together.
that's good. So
And yeah, and
pretty much
then
like
we
a
didn't.
learning experience up to where you are now.
Yeah, yeah. So, and we didn't even have the right tools because he had a lot of woodworking tools, so it was quite difficult. But yeah, we figured it out.
Okay. Uh, well, being the mechanic, what was your most embarrassing moment?
Trying to think. There's been a couple.
Couple. Yeah.
But
You can name one or two.
um it, yeah, I I think I had I forgot to tighten the handlebars up on one guy's bike, and he hit the first jump and they
Oh,
came down. So that was a little rough. Had to come
yeah.
back in, tighten them up, but it was only in practice, so it wasn't.
Okay, that's good. At
Yeah,
least it wasn't during the
yeah.
race.
They weren't I mean, they were tight, they just weren't all the way tight.
Yeah, I see.
So so that wasn't a whole lot of fun.
Hopefully
So
you don't do that again anytime soon.
no, no, I learned my lesson on that one.
Yeah.
So it's you only make usually only make the same mistake once.
Yeah,
So you
which is
never
good.
make it twice.
Yeah.
So
When was your first race with the old timers? Our club that we
um
race with.
trying to think. It was maybe uh around 2010, maybe.
Okay,
I don't know.
so you've been with the
Yeah,
club for like 10,
yeah,
15 years around there,
yeah.
say?
So we didn't really get involved in old timers until probably about 5 years ago. Like
Oh, I see.
we were just hit and miss. We would
Right.
show up and do some stuff, but yeah, about 5 years ago we started uh, going and riding all the time,
I see.
or quite a bit. So,
Are you going
but
to be are you going to be coming out to the national that's coming up, or are you going to be out with Austin?
no, I am going. I'm going to go to the international race.
That's good.
That'll be my first race of the year.
That's yeah, I heard because you've been everywhere with Austin Walton right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
yeah, moving
yeah,
on to the Austin Walton, what was your thoughts on you transitioning over from Supercross to off-roading?
uh, it. I was trying to be home a little more,
Yeah,
so uh, working on the West Coast, it's a little easier as far as the travel goes. It was, for the most part, we race on we practice on Saturdays, race on Sunday, and I can be home Sunday night.
that's good.
So
Spend time
yeah,
with family and stuff.
yeah. So uh, that was the most part of why I transitioned across to off road.
That's, um, who are your most favorite people to follow in business, and who do you look up for? Or who do you look up to?
Um, Probably Zach Osborne.
Zach, yeah, number one
He,
Supercross rider out there.
yep. He's very talented at what he does. He's been
Very.
very smart with everything that he's done, and he's he's a cool guy.
Good. And where can our listeners find you on social media?
Uh, Dave Feeney, 34 on Instagram.
thank you so much, guys, for tuning in on today's podcast. The next one's gonna be posted on tomorrow. Make sure you guys give me a follow on Spotify and also subscribe to my YouTube channel at Green Talks. I'll also be posting on Instagram at Eating Green 101. That'll be all in the description. Thank you so much.